When I started learning English, I didn't really understand how much this language would change my way of thinking. At first, it was just another skill, something I wanted to improve for work or travel. But later, I realized that learning English is much more than just learning words. It's a way to see the world differently. Every time I listen to a podcast or read an English book, I feel like my mind opens a little more. I begin to understand new ideas, new emotions, and even myself. English helps me to think bigger. It gives me confidence. And the more I practice, the more I notice how language and life are connected. You see, learning English isn't only about grammar or vocabulary, it's about your attitude, how you see your progress, how you react to mistakes, and how you keep moving even when it's difficult. Some people give up because they think it's too hard, while others continue and grow stronger every day. It's just like in life. Two people can have the same opportunities, the same teacher, and the same books, but one improves fast while the other stops. Why does that happen? The difference is not always in talent. It's in the attitude, the way you look at challenges, and the way you believe in yourself. And that's exactly what this story is about, how attitude shapes everything we do, both in learning English and in life. It's really strange how two people can live in the same city, work in the same office, earn the same money, and face the same problems, but one of them keeps growing while the other stays stuck. You might think the reason is luck, or talent, or education. But I've learned that the real difference is attitude. Attitude is like a small door hinge that changes the direction of your whole life. It's how you see the world, how you understand your experiences. When your attitude is positive, every problem becomes a lesson. But when it's negative, even good things start to feel heavy. The older I get, the more I understand that your altitude in life, how far you go, and how high you climb, depends on your attitude. It's not something I read in a book. I learned it from my childhood in the quiet fields of Idaho. I didn't grow up rich, but I wasn't poor inside. My parents gave me something more valuable than money. They gave me a strong way of thinking. I remember my father working hard, but always whistling happily while he worked. I saw my mother turn a small amount of food into a big dinner, and she never complained. From them, I learned how powerful your outlook can be. Later, when I met successful people like Mr. Schuff, I saw the same truth in a new way. It's not what happens that matters. It's what you believe about it. Two people can lose their jobs. One says, it's over, and gives up. The other says, it's a new beginning, and starts again. Guess which one succeeds? The one who uses loss as energy to move forward. I once knew a man who had the same opportunity as everyone else, the same job, the same company, the same chance. But he always said things like, I can't, I'm unlucky, it won't work. And of course, his results matched his words. Another man in the same situation had a different attitude. He said, I'll learn this, I'll find a way, tomorrow will be better. And yes, he was the one who earned the big rewards. That's because attitude multiplies everything else. And you know what? Attitude is contagious. If you spend time with negative people, soon you'll think like them. But if you spend time with positive dreamers, your own vision will start to grow. That's why it's so important to choose the right people around you. They can either lift you higher or hold you down. Here's the secret. You can't always change what happens, but you can always change yourself. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sail. And that sail is your attitude. A good sail takes you across the ocean. A broken sail keeps you drifting. So if you want to rise higher in life, start with your attitude. Believe in yourself, stay open-minded, and never stop learning. especially English. Every new word you learn is like setting your sail in a better direction. The more you grow, the farther you'll go. Sometimes we blame everything around us, the economy, the government, our boss, or even our neighbors. But the truth is, the real change begins inside us. You need to check your attitude, not the world around you, because your future doesn't live outside. It lives inside your mind. That's where your tomorrow begins. It's not the outside world that shapes your life, it's the inside world, your thoughts and beliefs. I like to think of it this way. Your attitude is like the weather of your mind. If it's sunny and calm inside, your life feels brighter, no matter what happens around you. Let me tell you a story. Two salesmen went into the same neighborhood. Both of them knocked on 20 doors. 19 people said no. One man came home sad and tired. He told his wife, "This job doesn't work. People are not interested. I knew I wasn't good enough." But the other man came home smiling and said, "Honey, I was so close today." 19 people said no, but that means the next one will say yes. Now, which of them do you think will stay longer in this business? Which one will finally reach success? Of course, the one who keeps trying, the one who turns every no into motivation for the next day. That's the power of interpretation. Both men heard the same words, met the same people, and worked in the same area. But their results were completely different because their mindsets were different. Attitude is what divides successful people from those who give up, not because life was easier for one, but because one of them chose to treat life differently. Some people turn every challenge into a lesson, while others turn it into a reason to complain. What you choose to do with your situation decides what your situation will do to you. I've met people with everything, good education, strong connections, enough money, but they never grow because they complain, criticize, and doubt themselves. And I've met others with almost nothing, no money, no support, no big name, yet they rise higher because they choose to stay positive and keep going. I used to think success was about big things, luck, talent, or opportunity. But later, I learned that success comes from the small habits in your attitude, repeated every single day. Think about a farmer. He can't control the weather. He can't stop the rain from being too heavy or too light. But he can control how he prepares the soil, how he plants his seeds, and how he waits with patience for the right time to harvest. Everything depends on his attitude. If the farmer says, "The weather is against me, so why bother planting?" he'll never get a crop. But if he says, "I'll plant anyway, I'll do my best with what I have," then when the season changes, he'll have a harvest. Life works the same way. You can't choose the seasons, but you can choose your response to them. That's what attitude means. It's not about control, it's about choice. And here's the hard truth. Every time you make an excuse, you lose a little bit of your potential. Excuses steal your growth. When you say, "I would try, but the government is bad," or "I would improve, but my boss doesn't support me," or "I would, but I live in the wrong place," you give your power away. You let your future depend on things you can't control. But when you say, "I will because I choose to," "I will because I can," "I will because my future depends on it," then you become free. And it's the same with learning English. You can say, "I would learn if I had more time," or "if I lived in another country." But the truth is, you already have everything you need: your will, your curiosity, and your attitude. Every new word you learn is a small seed. If you keep planting them every day, your confidence will grow like a beautiful garden. So remember, your attitude is your freedom. It's your wind, your sail, and your power to move forward, no matter how the world looks outside. There is always a clear line between two kinds of people: those who blame and those who build. Some people complain, while others keep climbing. It's not the weather, not the money, not the job. It's you. That's why your attitude always comes before altitude, because if you can't win in your mind, you'll never win in the real world. When I was younger, I used to think that attitude was something small, just a mood. You wake up in a bad mood, you frown all morning, and then maybe it goes away by lunch. But later, I understood that attitude is not just a passing feeling. It's a philosophy, a way of seeing the world. It's the lens through which you look at life. And once you put on a certain lens, everything you see goes through that filter. Challenges don't change who you are. They show who you are. If a problem appears and your first reaction is to complain, it tells a lot about your mindset. But if a problem comes and you ask, "What can I learn from this?" that tells a completely different story. Same problem, different reaction, different result. I'll never forget one story from my early business days. A young man came to one of my meetings, full of energy. He said, "I'm ready to start. I have big dreams, big goals, and I'm hungry for success." So he started working hard. But after a few weeks, he faced rejection. People said no to him. Some even laughed. He came back to me disappointed and said, "I didn't know it would be this hard." And I told him, "That's the test. Not whether the market is easy, but whether your attitude is strong enough to handle difficulty." Sadly, he didn't last. Not because he lacked skill or opportunity, but because he lacked the right attitude. Around the same time, I met another young man who faced the same rejection. But he came back with excitement in his eyes and said, "They said no today, but that means I'm closer to yes. They said no, but I'm learning how to answer people better. They said no, but at least I was out there doing something." That man didn't give up. He kept going and later became very successful. So the difference wasn't in what happened. It was in how they interpreted what happened. The same event, but different meanings. And that's the real power of attitude. It doesn't just affect how you feel, it decides what you do next. Life will always give you bricks. Some are heavy, rough, and hard to carry. But you have a choice. You can use them to build a wall that blocks you, or you can use them to build a foundation that lifts you higher. The bricks are the same. The builder is different. A negative attitude changes how you see the world. It makes opportunities look like risks. It makes effort look like a waste of time. It makes discipline feel like punishment. But a positive attitude does the opposite. It makes risk look like a new chance, effort look like investment, and discipline look like freedom. Two completely different lives can come from the same situation. The only difference is how you choose to see it. I always say, don't make small things big. Many people waste their energy on minor problems. They let small challenges grow into big barriers. They let little frustrations ruin their whole day. And after some time, they let temporary setbacks turn into permanent limits. But when you change your attitude, everything changes size. You stop saying this is the end and start saying this is just a bump on the road, and you keep moving forward. That's how life and learning works, especially when it comes to learning English. Sometimes English feels hard. You face no from your own mind when you forget words, make mistakes, or feel tired. But don't stop. Tell yourself, every mistake brings me closer to fluency. Because it's true, every small effort counts. So check your attitude. Believe in yourself. Keep learning. keep growing, and remember, your words create your world, especially the ones you say in English. Sometimes we forget that hard times are not forever. This is only a season, only a chapter in your life, not the whole story. When you think like that, you keep climbing instead of giving up. Having a positive attitude doesn't mean life becomes easy. It doesn't remove problems, but it gives you the strength to go through them. That's the real difference. The storm will still come, but the person with the right attitude builds their house on rock, not on sand. And when the storm passes, they are still standing. So ask yourself, what meaning do you give to your challenges? Do you see them as punishments, or do you see them as lessons? Are they curses, or are they classrooms where you learn to grow? Because your tomorrow depends on the answers you give today. One of the best ways to understand the power of attitude is to think about an airplane. An airplane doesn't fly because the wind is perfect. In fact, it usually takes off against the wind. That resistance is what helps it lift off the ground. What decides whether the plane goes higher or lower? It's not the weather or the storm. It's what pilots call the attitude of the aircraft, which means the angle of the nose compared to the horizon. When the pilot changes the attitude, the plane's altitude changes too. And that's exactly how it works with people. You can't remove gravity, and you can't stop every storm in your life, but you can adjust your personal attitude. You can choose to see things differently, and that will decide how high you climb in life. So, how can you apply this every day? Start with your mornings. The way you begin your day sets the direction for everything that follows. Some people wake up and immediately start complaining, "It's too early, I'm too tired, there's too much to do." That negative start becomes the rhythm of their whole day. But others wake up with gratitude. They think, "Thank God I have another chance. I have another sunrise. I have work to do. That means I have purpose." Same alarm clock, but a completely different morning and a completely different day. Another important habit is how you speak. Your words are like the paintbrush of your attitude. If you always say, "I can't," "I won't," or "I never," you are painting your life in dark colors. But if you say, "I can," "I will," "I'll try," "I'll learn," you are painting your life in bright colors full of light and hope. And here's something beautiful. Over time, you start to live inside the picture you paint. Your surroundings also matter. If you spend time with people who see problems everywhere, soon you'll start seeing problems too. But if you're around people who look for opportunities, you'll begin noticing new chances you never saw before. That's why I always remind myself, be careful who you spend your time with. Attitude is more contagious than any virus. And finally, there's discipline. You see, motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you moving when motivation disappears. It's your quiet promise to yourself, "I will continue even when it's not easy." Learning English is the same. Some days it feels easy and fun, other days it feels like a storm. But if your attitude is strong and your discipline is steady, you'll keep going. You'll fly higher, word by word, like a plane lifting against the wind. Discipline is not just about habits. It's the daily proof of your attitude. If your attitude says, "I can rise higher," your discipline will show it through your choices. You'll read that book, make that call, go to the gym, or save that extra dollar instead of wasting it. But if your attitude whispers, "It doesn't matter," then your discipline slowly disappears. You'll skip things, delay plans, waste time, and step by step, those small choices build two completely different lives. Let me give you a picture. Imagine two people planting seeds. The first one has faith. She believes her work will bring results. She plants every day, waters the ground, and takes care of the field. The second one has doubt. She plants a little, complains a lot, and skips days because she doesn't believe it will matter. When harvest time comes, one of them has abundance and the other has regret. Was it luck? Was it the weather? No. It was attitude made visible through action. Here's something very practical. The next time a problem appears, listen to your own words. Instead of saying, "Why me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Instead of saying, "I can't afford it," ask, "How can I afford it?" Instead of saying, "I'm stuck," ask, "What's my next step?" These small changes in language can change your altitude because they shift your focus from limitation to possibility. For many years, I've learned one simple truth. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. But those disciplines can't survive without the right attitude behind them. Your habits follow your attitude, and your future follows your habits. So if you want to go higher in life, don't start with the ladder. Start with your mind. Because if your attitude is right, you'll keep climbing even when the steps get steep. The real test of attitude doesn't come when life is easy. Anyone can smile when the sun is shining, when the paycheck is big, and when everything goes well. The test comes in winter, when business is slow, when friends turn away, or when your fridge looks empty. That's when your true strength is revealed. Most people make a mistake. They think the obstacle itself is the problem. But the obstacle is only half of the story. The other half is how you respond to it. A weak attitude makes every obstacle look impossible. It turns small hills into mountains. But a strong attitude shrinks the problem until it looks manageable. And then you take the next step with confidence. And this applies perfectly to learning English too. Some days it feels like you're not improving. You forget words, your pronunciation sounds strange, or your grammar feels wrong. But if your attitude is strong, you'll say, "That's okay. I'm learning. Every mistake is part of my progress." Part of discipline in learning is the same as planting seeds. You don't see the result immediately, but one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come. So keep the right attitude, stay disciplined, and never stop growing in life and in English. Because when your attitude lifts, your whole world rises with it. You know, I've been thinking a lot about how learning English is not only about the language itself, it's about becoming a different version of yourself. Every new word you learn, every sentence you understand, and every conversation you dare to start, they all build a new part of your identity. English slowly changes how you think, how you see the world, and how you express who you really are. When I started learning English, I thought it would be easy. I downloaded a few apps, watched a couple of videos, and believed I'd become fluent in a few months. But soon I understood this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. Some days feel great. When you finally understand a movie or remember a phrase from a podcast, but there are also days when you feel stuck, when you forget simple words, or when grammar feels like a wall too high to climb. Those are the moments when attitude matters the most. You can either tell yourself, "I'll never be good at this," or you can take a deep breath and say, "This is part of the process. I'm learning and I'm growing." One attitude builds your confidence, and the other steals it away. I've met so many people who gave up on English because they expected perfection too soon. But English is like the ocean. You can't learn it all at once. You just learn how to swim, little by little. And one day you realize you're not drowning anymore. You're moving with the waves. For me, learning English became something very personal. It wasn't only about getting a better job or passing a test. It was about connection. Suddenly, I could watch interviews, read inspiring books, and understand people from completely different countries, I started to feel like a citizen of the world. And yes, it takes discipline. There are no shortcuts. You can't expect to wake up fluent one day. You need to practice, even when you're tired, even when no one is watching. You need to speak out loud, write short paragraphs, repeat new words, listen to podcasts while cooking, or think in English while walking. Every small effort counts. Sometimes I talk to myself in English. It may sound funny, but it really helps. I describe what I'm doing, what I feel, or what I dream about. It's like training my brain to live in English, and slowly it starts to feel natural. I stop translating. I stop being afraid. I just speak. And here's what I've learned. English rewards consistency, not speed. You don't need to be perfect today. You just need to be a little better than yesterday. Every time you push yourself to learn something new, even one small thing, your brain grows. You build habits. You build character. The beauty of English is that it opens doors you didn't even know existed. You can understand motivational speakers, talk to travelers, make friends abroad, start a YouTube channel, or even share your story with the world. And maybe your story, your struggles, your accent, your progress will inspire someone else to start learning too. When you start to think in English, you begin to think differently. You become more confident, more patient, more curious. You realize that learning a language is not only about words, it's about courage. Every time you speak, you are training your mind to be brave. And yes, there will always be mistakes. There will be times when people don't understand you. But don't let that stop you. Each mistake is a teacher, each correction is progress, and every moment of doubt is a moment of growth. I like to compare learning English to climbing a mountain. At the bottom, it feels impossible. You look up and think, it's too far. But step by step, you start climbing. You stop looking at how high the mountain is. You focus on the next small step. And one day, you look down and realize how far you've come. So don't rush. Don't compare yourself to others. Everyone climbs at their own speed. What really matters is that you keep going. Keep learning. Keep believing. Keep dreaming in English. Because English isn't just a language, it's a bridge. It connects you to knowledge, people, opportunities, and dreams. It's your way of saying to the world, I'm ready to grow, I'm ready to be more. And every day you learn, every word you speak, every thought you form in English, you rise a little higher. Sometimes the obstacle itself doesn't change. It's still the same mountain, the same challenge, the same problem. But what does change is the way the climber sees it. Your perspective transforms everything. I remember the early days of my career when I was working in sales. There were weeks when I didn't get a single yes. I came home exhausted, disappointed, and ready to give up. It was so tempting to blame the company, the product, or the market. But one day, my mentor, Mr. Schuff, told me something that changed everything. He said, don't let your attitude collapse just because the numbers aren't in your favor this week. Numbers will change, seasons will change, but if your attitude breaks, you won't last long enough to see the shift. Those words stayed with me forever. They saved me. And now, I often ask myself, how many times have I used excuses like, it's not my time, or the odds are against me, or if only I had better luck? Those phrases sound innocent, but they are poison. They quietly steal your strength and take away your responsibility. And when responsibility disappears, growth disappears too. Excuses are the language of a low-altitude life. They make you comfortable for a moment but keep you small forever. So don't wish for the struggle to vanish. Don't pray for lighter loads. Instead, pray for a stronger back. Don't beg for an easier road. Build yourself a better pair of shoes. Because life isn't meant to be easy, it's meant to make you stronger. The person who believes life must always be fair will live in disappointment. But the one who understands that life can be tough and chooses to adjust their attitude instead of complaining, that person will climb higher. And isn't it true that most breakthroughs in life come disguised as breakdowns? Think about it. You lose your job. It feels like the end, but hidden inside that loss is a push to start something new, maybe even your own business. You face rejection. It hurts. But hidden inside is a lesson in resilience. You fall behind financially. It feels terrible, but hidden inside is a new sense of discipline and responsibility. The way you choose to see things, your attitude, determines whether you'll find the hidden gift inside the difficulty or miss it completely. Some people see obstacles and call them destiny. They stop and say, "This is just how my life is." Others face the same obstacles and call them training. They say, "This is preparing me for something greater." And that difference, that tiny but powerful shift in attitude, shapes your entire future more than your background, your education, or even your bank account ever could. So here's a challenge for you, and for me too. From now on, catch yourself every time an excuse tries to come out of your mouth. Don't let it. Replace it with determination. Instead of saying, "I can't because," start saying, "I will." Instead of saying, "It's too hard," start saying, "It's a challenge, but I'm capable." Instead of saying, "I don't have enough time," start saying, "I'll find the time because my future depends on it." And this is especially true for learning English, because English is not just a school subject, it's a life skill, a tool that can change your world. Sometimes it feels hard. Grammar rules seem endless. Words don't stay in your memory. Pronunciation feels impossible. But remember, these are not punishments, they are training sessions. Every mistake you make teaches you something. Every no from your brain, when it forgets a word, is pushing you to build mental strength. Every challenge is preparing you for fluency, confidence, and new opportunities. If you want to grow, don't run from the struggle. Embrace it. Your journey with English might feel like climbing a mountain, but that's what makes the view from the top so beautiful. So next time you feel like saying, "I can't speak English well enough," stop yourself and replace it with, "I will speak better because I'm learning." Say it with confidence, believe it with your heart, and live it every day. Because every time you choose determination over excuses, your future shifts upward, word by word, day by day. At some point, you have to stop saying, "I would if," and start saying, "I must, so I will." This is not just about positive thinking, it's about disciplined language that reshapes the way you see your life. Because in the end, success, or what the original text calls altitude, doesn't belong to the lucky. It belongs to the persistent, the disciplined, and the ones who decide that attitude is non-negotiable. Your attitude doesn't just shape your career, it shapes your whole life. It colors your relationships, your health, your goals, and even your happiness. If we only talked about work or business, we'd miss the real lesson. Because the same attitude that helps you build a company also helps you build a marriage. The same mindset that grows your wealth can also strengthen your health. The same perspective that helps you win in business helps you win at home, with your family, with your dreams, with your future. Attitude is universal. It's like a lens that changes how you see everything. Some people see money as something bad. They think that if they become rich, they'll turn greedy, or that if they earn more, they're somehow taking it from others. With that mindset, they never chase success with full energy, because deep down, they feel guilty for even wanting it. But another person looks at money differently. They see it as a tool, as a servant, not a master. They believe that if they prosper, they can help others, support their family, and create a better life. It's the same money, but a completely different meaning, and therefore a completely different altitude. The same goes for health. I've met people who see exercise as punishment. They say, I hate it. It's too hard. It's boring. With that attitude, of course, they avoid it, and their body suffers. But another person takes those same 30 minutes of movement and sees them as a gift, a small investment into their future. They see exercise as a way to honor their body and the life they've been given. And that shift makes every drop of sweat worth it. Not because exercise got easier, but because they chose to see it differently. It's the same with family. If you see children as a burden, you'll feel exhausted and irritated. But if you see them as a blessing, then even their noise, their mess, and their endless questions become part of your joy. The children don't change, and the parent's attitude does. And the emotional altitude of that family rises or falls because of it. Even in spiritual life, attitude plays a role. Some people see discipline as bondage, while others see it as freedom. Some see faith as foolishness, while others see it as strength. And in each case, the belief creates the experience. The outside world doesn't change. The meaning you give to it does. And that's the beautiful truth. Attitude doesn't need permission. You don't need the government's approval to change it. You don't need your boss to be kind first. You don't need your neighbor to agree with you. Attitude is 100% internal. It's your decision, your choice, your power. And that's why, when it comes to learning English, this principle becomes incredibly powerful. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to live in London or study abroad. You don't need expensive teachers or native friends to start improving. What you need is the right attitude. You can say, I'll learn English when I have more time. Or you can say, I must learn English, so I will. You can say, it's too hard for me. Or you can say, it's challenging, but I'll get stronger with every word. You can say, my accent is bad, or you can say, my accent tells my story, and every day it's getting better. Because English, like life, doesn't reward excuses. It rewards consistency, courage, and attitude. It's not for the lucky, it's for the persistent. For those who keep practicing, keep trying, keep growing. So if you truly want to rise higher, in English, in your dreams, in your life, remember this: you don't need permission from anyone. You already have everything you need. The moment you say, I will, instead of I wish, everything begins to change. Keep your attitude strong, keep your heart open, and never forget, every new English word, every effort, every tiny step you take today is lifting you higher toward the life you deserve. Your attitude is the most powerful lever you have in life. You might not be able to control every situation or every outcome, but you can always control how you respond to it. You can choose whether to stay bitter or get better, whether to complain or create, whether to retreat or advance. And over the years, these small choices quietly shape your destiny. So let me ask you something. What's the altitude of your finances today? If it's low, maybe it's time to check your attitude toward money. What's the altitude of your health? If it's low, maybe your attitude toward discipline needs a small adjustment. What's the altitude of your relationships? If they're struggling, maybe it's not about others. Maybe it's time to check your attitude toward people. Because when attitude rises, altitude follows. And here's the best part. It doesn't take a revolution to change your altitude. It takes small, daily adjustments. Just like a pilot who tilts the airplane's nose by only a few degrees, a tiny change that hours later puts the plane hundreds of miles away from where it would have been. That's how life works. Small shifts in attitude, repeated day after day, create huge differences in destiny. There comes a moment when we have to stop treating attitude as optional. It's not decoration. It's not something we wear only when things are good and take off when life gets hard. Attitude is a sign of maturity. It's the decision to see life in a certain way before life decides for you. Don't wait for the right time to change your attitude. So many people tell themselves, I'll get serious next year. I'll think positively when things get easier. I'll be grateful when everything settles down. But here's the truth. Life never really settles down. Circumstances don't wait for you to change. If you don't decide now, you start drifting, and drifting never takes you upward. Life doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to grow up, to handle what you can't control with strength and wisdom. Children throw tantrums when things go wrong. Adults make adjustments. Children complain that life isn't fair. Adults ask, what can I do with what I have? Children wait for someone to save them. Adults build resilience and learn how to save themselves. And all that difference, all that maturity, is wrapped in attitude. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments, but attitude is the foundation that bridge stands on. Without the right attitude, discipline can't hold. Without discipline, dreams stay dreams. That's why attitude comes first. In life, in love, in success, and even in learning English. Because English, too, is a journey that depends on how you see it. You might not control how quickly you learn, how perfect your pronunciation is, or how fast you memorize vocabulary. But you control your reaction. You decide whether you'll complain that it's too hard, or keep studying because you know that each word is another step forward. You decide whether you'll give up after a few mistakes, or smile and say, it's okay, I'll try again. You decide whether you'll wait for someday or start today. And those small daily decisions, those small attitude adjustments, will completely transform your future. Every time you practice a new word, you're raising your altitude. Every time you listen to a podcast in English, even when it's difficult, you're flying a little higher. Every time you choose patience over frustration, you're proving that your attitude is stronger than any challenge. Because in the end, success, in language, in life, in love, doesn't belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who decide every single day to take responsibility, to stay consistent, and to keep their attitude high. So keep your eyes on the horizon, keep your spirit lifted, and remember, you are the pilot of your own life. Adjust your attitude, and your altitude will follow. Sometimes I think that learning English is like flying a plane through different kinds of weather. Some days the sky is clear, words come easily, grammar feels simple, and you understand everything you hear. But other days the wind is strong, your confidence shakes, and you feel lost in the clouds. Yet even on those days, you keep flying. You don't stop the journey. You just adjust your attitude, just like a real pilot does. When you decide that English isn't just a school subject, but a part of who you are, everything changes. It stops being a task and becomes an adventure. You start noticing how beautiful the language sounds, how expressive it can be, how one single word can describe a feeling that your native language can't. There was a time when I was afraid to speak. I worried about my accent, my mistakes, and the way people might judge me. But later, I realized that speaking English is not about perfection, it's about connection. Every time you speak, you connect with the world. You open your heart a little wider. It's not about sounding like a native speaker. It's about sounding like yourself, confident, growing, and brave. I often remind myself that English is not something you finish. You don't complete it. You live it. You live it when you listen to a podcast, when you read an article, when you sing along to a song, or when you think to yourself in English. It becomes a part of your daily rhythm, like breathing. And what's really amazing is how English changes your mindset. When you learn another language, your world gets bigger. You start understanding not only other people, but also yourself. You become more patient, more curious, more open-minded. You begin to see that mistakes aren't failures. They're simply signs of progress. Sometimes I think of English as a mirror. It reflects my dedication, my courage, and my discipline. On days when I speak fluently, I feel proud and powerful. On days when I forget words, I remind myself. Even the best speakers once started with nothing but curiosity. Learning English also teaches you how to handle life. You can't control how fast you improve, but you can control how you react when something feels hard. You can get frustrated, or you can smile and say, "It's okay, I'll learn this tomorrow." That's the power of attitude. It turns frustration into motivation. The beautiful thing is, English opens doors. It connects you to people, stories, and opportunities that you couldn't reach before. You can travel and feel confident ordering food in another country. You can understand songs, read books, and even build your own projects or YouTube channels. The possibilities are endless. I believe that every word I learn brings me a little closer to the life I dream about. Sometimes, when I'm tired or unmotivated, I imagine my future self, speaking freely, confidently, naturally, and I whisper, "Keep going. You're on your way." Because one day you'll realize that English isn't something outside of you. It's something inside you. It becomes part of your thoughts, your dreams, your story. So never stop. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't think you need to be smarter, younger, or richer to start. You already have everything you need: your curiosity, your attitude, and your desire to grow. And when you feel doubt, remember this: every word you learn is a victory, every sentence you write is a step forward, and every time you speak, even with mistakes, you're proving to yourself that you're brave enough to try. English is more than grammar. It's growth, it's strength, it's freedom. You know, the longer I walk this path, the more I understand that learning English is not only about the language itself, it's about who you become while learning it. It's not just about memorizing words or passing a test. It's about developing patience, consistency, and confidence. It's about learning how to keep believing in yourself even when nobody else can see your progress yet. I remember when I first started, I could barely form a full sentence. I felt nervous every time I tried to speak. My pronunciation was strange, my grammar was full of mistakes, and sometimes people didn't understand me. It felt embarrassing, but with time, I realized something powerful. Mistakes don't define you, they train you. Every wrong sentence you speak is a brick in the wall of your success. You learn to smile after making an error. You learn to laugh at yourself kindly. You learn to try again. And that's where the real growth happens. Not when everything is easy, but when you keep going, even when it's hard. English became more than just a goal for me. It became a mirror. It reflected my discipline, my courage, my patience, and my attitude. When I study every day, I'm not just improving my English, I'm improving myself. I'm teaching my brain to stay focused, to be creative, and to never give up on what I love. And one day, without realizing it, you start to feel something beautiful. Freedom. The kind of freedom that lets you express your thoughts clearly, understand people from all over the world, and connect deeply with new ideas. You can watch movies without subtitles, write messages to friends abroad, and even dream in English. That's when you realize how far you've come. But before that moment comes, there will be many days when you feel stuck. Days when motivation disappears, when grammar rules seem endless, when pronunciation feels impossible. Those are the days when you have to trust the process. Don't give up just because it's hard. Every word you repeat, every sentence you write, every podcast you listen to, it all matters. Even if it feels small, it's not wasted time. It's growth you can't see yet. The truth is, English is like planting a tree. At first, you see nothing. You water it, you take care of it, you keep believing, and then one day, a tiny green leaf appears. It's the same with learning. You keep studying, you keep practicing, and one day, your leaf appears. A moment when you realize, I understood that, or I said that correctly. That's your growth. That's your sign that you're on the right path. And remember, everyone's journey is different. Some people learn faster, some slower, some have more time, some less. But that doesn't matter. You're not in competition with anyone. You're just becoming a little better than you were yesterday. That's all that counts. When I think about it, English has taught me more about life than about language. It taught me that success isn't about luck. It's about showing up. It's about opening that book even when you're tired. It's about watching that video when you'd rather scroll social media. It's about speaking even when your heart is racing and your voice shakes. Because that's what courage looks like. Not perfection, but persistence. And the most beautiful part is that the world opens up when you learn English. You don't just understand other people. You begin to understand their hearts, their cultures, their stories. You realize that we are all more similar than different. You can talk to someone from India, the UK, Japan, or Brazil and find a connection. You can listen, you can share, you can inspire. Maybe one day you'll use English to build your own project, your own podcast, or your own YouTube channel. Maybe you'll teach someone else what you've learned. Maybe your story, your accent, your journey, your passion will become the reason someone else starts learning. And when that happens, you'll understand the real purpose of learning English. Not to impress, but to express. Not to show off, but to grow. Not to sound perfect, but to sound real. So wherever you are now, please don't stop. Don't let fear steal your progress. Don't let comparison slow you down. You're doing better than you think. You're learning, growing, and becoming the person you were meant to be. And if you ever feel lost, just whisper to yourself, I must, so I will. Say it softly. Say it with power. Say it in English. Because those words have magic in them. They remind you that the only thing standing between you and your dream is attitude. Keep learning, keep speaking, keep believing. The road may be long, but the view from the top is worth every step. And when you get there, when your English flows naturally, when you finally feel free to express yourself, You'll smile and realize that you didn't just learn a language, you learned resilience, courage, and faith in yourself. So thank you for listening. And never forget, every word matters, every effort counts. Every moment you practice English, you're not just improving your language, you're building your future.